thank you.
So, we're really happy to be here to talk to you guys because we're massive technology fans, geeks, innovators. We love tech, and this is one of the great events in Melbourne. It's been a little while since I've been here, but every time I do come here, I meet some really wonderful people. So thanks very much for everyone for coming down here today and for letting us talk at you for 20 minutes or so. We're going to talk today about innovating in the tech conference space. We've done a lot of conferences and find that they're just all so similar, and not all of them are very worthwhile. So we came up with a concept called BuzzConf, which we're going to talk to you about today. So my name's Rick. I'm a front-end developer, and like I say, love technology. Earlier adopter of a few things, a bit later on quite a few more than I care to admit. I'm pretty active in the community. I run a few different meetups. I run Be Responsive and the Angular JS meetup. The communities in Melbourne are one of the things that make it a really special place. I've never been anywhere else where there's been such a great sense of community, so I like to do as much as I can in that space.
And I'm Ben. I'm a back-end developer predominantly. My core passion is in the security space. I've also, like Rick, run a number of conferences for the past few years, as well as the PHP user group and the Melbourne Meetup Mix-Up that started last year. So Rick and I both enjoy creating environments in which the community can get together and network, and I think that's probably one of the things that brought us together. I've also spoken at a number of conferences, and my experience in that has led me to create BuzzConf in this direction as well.
So, why did we actually feel that conferences needed such innovation? I guess we go to a lot of different conferences, and for me the best thing about them is always the corridor track. Yes, you can go and sit in a hall like this and watch a presentation that will be available on YouTube the next day, and yes, this will be available on YouTube the next day. But the best part is meeting people. It's those moments you get between the sessions where you've really got one-on-one time with the people that come there. But they're so few and far between at most conferences. You have allotted times for networking. 15 minutes here, an hour there. They're in stuffy conference centres. And the presenters that maybe have come from far away from overseas, and the people that come to visit the conferences as well, they spend a few minutes talking to you. Maybe they go to the bar with the people they came with, and then they disappear to their hotel rooms. You're missing out on the opportunity to actually connect with them. So what if we ran it more like a music festival? What if a conference was a party? What if we got everyone together and we didn't let them leave? We closed the gates. Not literally, well, we did literally, but there was a way around the side. People are encouraged to stay for a whole weekend. There's no hotel rooms to disappear to. You've just got a whole weekend where you can connect with people. When the learning is finished, you can be entertained by live music. And when the live music is finished, there are DJs. So you can keep on that party vibe. You can keep socialising. You can keep feeling entertained. You can be a lunatic in a field. And there's nothing quite like that moment where you realise there's 50 people in a field still with their name badges on from the conference earlier, at 1 o'clock in the morning, raving to a band called Big Fucking Robots. But you haven't been to a good conference until you've seen that. We also wanted to lower the barrier for entry for people with families and for students, because a lot of the time conferences mean time away from family, and none of us really want that. So if you can entertain the family the whole weekend, then that's another barrier for entry that's gone. Student prices, we bring them right down, kids are free, and that means that everyone can enjoy the whole weekend together.
So we thought it might be useful to just go across a bit of our journey, how we got here. As I say, Rick and I have run conferences before, but we never run a festival. And how do you run a festival when you've never run a festival? So we thought, at the very least, we know how to run a conference part, and we thought we can probably squeeze one into about 6 to 9 months worth of organisation. We've done that before. Let's give ourselves a bit of breathing space. We gave ourselves 12 months to do a festival conference. And we started with the logical parts, let's get the branding, let's define who we are, what we're doing, why we're here. And we designed a website, we got the domain name registered, and we thought, who do we want to present? So we thought about the speakers, who's new in the field, who's talking about the futuristic stuff. I actually contacted Elon Musk and Richard Branson, because I thought they would be awesome. Elon was unavailable, under $170,000, so that wasn't going to happen. Richard Branson never replied, didn't return my calls, but I tried. And then we thought, where are we going to run it? We've done conference centres, we've run them at Abbotsford Convent. That's a bit tricky, but at least there's a room and there's power, and we can get internet in. But how do we do a conference in a field? Because obviously there's got to be camping, right? So we contacted a couple of festival organisers of festivals that we enjoyed, and we got a bit of feedback from them. But the hard part was working out how to run the whole technological aspect of a conference in a field. And as I say, it's like the A&E. Not only do we need sound for the entertainment, but we need podiums and stages and cordless mics and power. We need tents to run these things in. We're going into a field, there's no room there for us to set up a talk in. What are people going to sit on? Where are the tables coming from? Do we need a floor underneath the chairs so they're not sitting on grass? How are we going to get power to all the delegates? Because during the workshops they're going to need to plug in their laptops. And then when we get the entertainment from, we knew a couple of bands already, but as I say, we hadn't run a festival. And it was kind of, you can see our timelines kind of creeping down towards the May 2015 that we were hoping to run this thing in. And we thought, we're running out of time, we don't know what we're doing, what are we going to do? So we scaled back. Gave ourselves an extra 6 months, pushed it out to November, and we pushed all of this stuff that we weren't quite sure about into the corner. And the best thing we did was we hired another company to help us. So Frank Wilder, an event management company. They run a number of festivals. They also delve into like the fashion scene. They've never done a technical conference though. Definitely not one in the park. So they had a lot to learn from us. We had a lot to learn from them. It was a really good combination there. But we managed to outsource all of the hard stuff that we didn't understand to another organisation. I think that's probably one of our biggest learning points, to the point at which we were able to go forward again and carry on with building BuzzConf. Which left only one real aspect for us, which was the financial. Let's make sure we can pay for all the bills, which came down to ticketing and sponsorship. And we were pretty confident because we knew how to do that, having done it before. Until we looked at the ticketing. So when you go to a standard conference, you have a ticket. That's about it, right? So we had a ticket if you're an adult or a child, or maybe you're a festival goer, or maybe you're a festival goer who wants to stay in a dorm room, or maybe you're a festival goer who wants to camp. So we worked out there were actually about 90 different permutations of a ticket that we could sell. And while some Eventbrite, for example, will allow you to sell a ticket and then put add-ons on top, so we can say, well, we're going to sell you a ticket and then you can add on the robots workshop. You can only add on 6 with Eventbrite. It wasn't going to work for us. So what does any software engineer do when he's faced with a problem like this? We wrote our own. So the first version of Conference, the event management system was very much back-end. It was minimal viable product. It did exactly what we needed to do and no more. And when people came through and said, look, I want to upgrade my ticket, or I want to add a node bot, or I want to add my child, I would go in and I would manually edit the database at the back end to make that happen for them, because we didn't have a very good admin system, minimal viable product, as I said. We linked to a third-party payment provider, so we didn't have to worry about that, and all was good. This year, however, we've moved on to an API-based back-end, an Angular front-end. So that example that I showed you before with the 90 permutations of different ticket types we could sell, we've managed to, so this here is the accommodation screen. This represents 70 different permutations of accommodation, which I think is a lot easier than 70 fields on an Eventbrite form. We were very lucky actually. General Assembly run a course on user experience, and we had one of their teams volunteer to help us, and they came up with the redefining the process here of making the user experience of ordering a lot easier. So that was a really good experience that we had. And yeah, the other idea behind making it API-based as a side issue is that we'd like to perhaps make this available to other organisations who want to run events that don't quite fit the Eventbrite model.
So, how did it all go? Once we organised it all? Well, we put on an amazing event. We had incredible technology in a field, which is an achievement in itself. We had a number of huge marquees where people were able to watch presentations and workshops and do interactive demonstrations. There's some people building some robots here. We had people building robot spiders and playing with them. And the kids really loved it. They were building little MakeBots and Lego robots. And of course, we're a bunch of techies in a field, a couple of hundred of us. We need good internet. We had 250 megabits up and down, thanks to our partners at Ocean Labs. It took them all night to set up this rig, but I think we had the fastest internet connection that Balan had ever seen, just in this field, which made a real big difference. And of course, we had all the festival aspects. We had great food, we had lots of campfires. This was our corridor track. It became hanging around with campfires, and the presenters really loved it. I think we had 19 presenters, and 17 of them stayed for the whole weekend. And most of the time, they were around the campfires. The kids loved it as well. It's a great place to meet people, to talk about the workshops and the presentations that you've seen throughout the day, and share some new ideas. And then, of course, there was the party. And the music, and the DJs, and all of that fun stuff that came at the end of the day. And if you were lucky enough to get to bed in time, it all started again the next day. So, what sort of topics did we present on?
So, Rick's already mentioned that we had notebots there. Notebots is probably one of the most exciting aspects in terms of people getting their hands onto technology, building and programming. There's a sketch programming language that allows you to program the robot to do exactly what you want to do. We also had the 3D printed robot spiders you saw. The guy who ran that workshop was doing a 3D Blender workshop, teaching people how to use Blender in order to create designs ready for 3D printing. Brought along his robot spiders as well to show off, so a bit of a show and tell there. But the kids track, we tried to make sure there was enough for kids as well. One of the fathers, actually, he and his daughter spent about a month beforehand planning a Minecraft workshop. So they had all these children bring along their laptops, they set up Minecraft, and they built their own environments. They had races in Minecraft, and he ran a central server so that people could carry on playing on Minecraft all weekend long. But what I think is probably one of the best things to come out of BuzzConf after the event, after it had finished, that continued, going back to the notebots, was a guy called Nick Moore. He was there with his 8-year-old daughter, and they were playing with the notebot, and she had a whale of time. She grasped most of it. She managed to help build the robot. She was okay using Sketch, but when he brought it back home, his 5-year-old daughter was having a bit of a problem with the JavaScript debugger. It was a little bit too complicated. The robot was a bit too big, so he thought, how can I make this a really good learning experience for younger children? So he redesigned the notebot to make a smaller version that his 5-year-old could hold in her hand, and he designed his own programming interface, I suppose, not so much the language, well, probably that as well. It actually ran on the smaller notebot. It was a web server running on the notebot that provided an interface that allowed you to select the inputs and the outputs and drag lines in between to be able to define the logic in between. So you didn't need a debugger anymore because you can't connect 2 outputs together, you can't connect 2 inputs together, you're not going to have clashes, you can't connect analog to digital. So this made it really easy for his 5-year-old to be able to say, when you're too close to the wall, reverse, things to that effect. So I think that was a really awesome thing to come out of. We'll put the slides up somewhere eventually later, but there's a year old down here if you want to check that out as well. It's called Flowbot, F-L-O-B-O-T.
We also had Kathy talk about biotech. Fascinating subject, also quite a terrifying subject, I think. One of the stories that sticks with me, she had a friend who went to get a pacemaker fitted. And the doctor said, well, we have this old technology that we can put in and it works, but if something goes wrong, if we need some software upgrade, we need to cut you open and put a new one in. But we've got one that's wirelessly enabled. So we can put that in, and then if anything goes wrong, we can debug it remotely, we can update the software on it remotely. Everyone's taking this new one. And this lady said, what operating system does it run? The doctor said, I don't know. Can I have a look at the code? No, it's all closed code. So how do I know that someone else can't also wirelessly turn on and off my pacemaker? That's really, really scary. It's one of these things that really sticks with me, is that if you have a defibrillator or a pacemaker, you don't want it to be open to allow anyone to hack on it. But part of being open and wireless is sort of allowing us to embrace this stuff. It's quite scary.
And no futuristic conference, virtual reality. We had a number of virtual reality devices, but I think the biggest thing for me was watching people who had never played with VR before, playing with VR for the first time. A gentleman in this photo here was playing with the dinosaur, was it on Samsung? The Samsung World. Has anybody played with the dinosaur one where you see the big dinosaur coming down and he used one of the demos? He was looking around this space and he was in awe. Like the sounds coming out of his mouth were like he'd never seen anything like this before. He almost walked into the fire pit 3 times. And at one point, he actually, I don't know if you can quite make out the photo there, but he was wandering around and he was looking in this virtual space. And he thought that his leg, as he was looking around, would actually be able to go onto the log in the virtual reality space he could see. While he was completely blind, because he couldn't actually see the real world. It turns out there's actually a bench under there, and as he put his foot down on the log, he felt something, and his mind was blown even more, because I think for a moment he thought that maybe the virtual reality had become real. But it was fascinating to watch.
One of the other great things that we were able to do is facilitate families working together. Teaching kids to code and to play with technology. It's just one of these really inspirational things, because they pick things up so quickly. We partnered with a few organisations, one of which is Code the Future, and they organised a few different demos, one of which was setting up weather stations. And there were kids as young as 5 being involved in coding this up, but 2 of them, I think they were aged 8 and 9, they built completely working weather stations that they could leave out by the plants, that would send their phones messages when the plants needed water, when they weren't getting enough sun. This is something, it's fairly trivial for a lot of you in the room, I'm sure. It's something that I've been meaning to do for years, and it kind of puts you to shame when an 8-year-old goes into a room somewhere for 3 hours and comes out with a working one, and I've been putting it off because I think it's been too hard for too long. But they were building robots and playing with stuff and really getting involved. And we also worked with the Yarra Plenty Library, and they brought down a lot of more low-tech stuff, so their green screen photography and stop animation. And the kids really loved it, and the parents were able to get involved in that as well and share the joy of technology. Because let's face it, kids are geeks, tend to be geeks, and there's nothing better than sharing something you love with your children.
So we had the workshops and we had the talks. We also ran a little workshop, a hackathon rather. The idea behind the hackathon, which was sponsored by Australia Post, was to create systems that would enable a sharing economy. So that was the main remit behind the system. And we had the gentleman on the left there actually works with neural networks. And earlier on in the day, both of these two had been working on the NodeBots workshop, and they thought, why don't we link the NodeBot up to a neural network so it becomes almost self-aware. It can evaluate its environment and react to the environment in real time. Their premise behind the sharing economy was that you might be able to get a whole fleet of these little NodeBots going around learning about the environment and sharing information between them so we can learn from the environment without actually having to go out personally and checking it out ourselves. This family here decided that what they wanted to do was to share food. If you cook too much in the evening and you fancy sharing that with somebody, they might be walking down the street in need of a meal, and using beacon technology and an app that they were working on, you would be able to share information about food that's available. Perhaps you're coming home late from work and you haven't had time to cook or go shopping. Perhaps you're a student and all you've been eating is chips for the last week and you want a healthy meal. Or perhaps you're an elderly resident nearby whose caretaker, primary caregiver, wasn't able to come round that evening and cook your meal, so you can call out and see if somebody can bring you something. So they wanted to take the wastage of food, I suppose, and share that with other people through technology. And perhaps one of my favourites was 47 lawnmowers. A guy called Rick Measham found, using a scientific guesstimation, that there were 47 lawnmowers in his street, which were used on average 30 minutes each, twice a month. And he thought that was a huge waste of resources. Is there anything we can do to make this better? And he's actually taken this product after BuzzConf. He's working on it in a slightly different way now. But the idea is to get all these resources together, whether it's shovels or trailers or wheelbarrows or chainsaws. And if your neighbour has one, why not build a trust network online, technologically, to be able to share that with other people and not have to have one lawnmower each.
And another organisation that we have to give a shout out to is LifeX. Put your hand up if you were one of the original LifeX founders. Just one tonight, okay. The LifeX bulb is amazing, and it's really revolutionised, I think, how we think about IoT in the home, because it's so cheap and affordable and fun and easy to use. So Andy Gilm came down with a truck full of LifeX bulbs, and we decorated half of the campsite with them. And the great thing about this was, we put that all up over the main stage, and the kids were able to come over and connect to the network and basically do our DJing for us. They were our light engineers for the bands and the DJs. They were programming in sequences and setting off strobes, and in my fairly ignorant ways, I was going over and I was adding one light bulb, and it took 30 minutes, then I was adding the next light bulb, and then the next light bulb, and I'd been there for 2 or 3 minutes, and I had a bit of a pattern going, and a 6-year-old would come up and connect them all straight away and start strobing them, and all this pattern that I'd been working on was demolished straight away. I mean, kids really do get a hang of this a lot quicker than us sometimes, and I think I'm fairly tech savvy. But it was really good and interactive to have this sort of stuff brought to people, and generated a lot of interest.
So it'd be hard pushed to find any kind of conference or expo recently where Tesla have not been present. As if you've tried the Tesla, if you've driven it, I'd recommend going to try one. They're so happy for you to go along, even if you're not going to buy one. I spoke to the dealer and he said 70% of the people who come to try one will never buy one in their lives. But we love people playing with it. They love to share their technology. So they came down. The delegates at the time were actually in one of the tents, and the tents, you can't quite see, it's off to this direction here, but all the delegates had their back to this space. So it was a really good response when they all turned around from the talk they'd just been in and walked out the door and saw where there was a space before, now there was a Tesla. Some jaws dropped, people were quite excited, it was kind of cool. I'd driven one about a month before, and they didn't have the lane control version. This version here had the lane control, so the rep from Tesla was taking people around for joyrides, I suppose. Given it was a festival and there was alcohol involved, nobody was able to drive it themselves. There was under very strict instructions not to let anybody behind the wheel other than the Tesla rep. But it was interesting to see that the lane control worked on the gravel driveways in the camp, as well as on the slightly winding road just outside the camp. So it was quite popular. We had a lot of people. We had somebody here in front testing out the size of the front boot. I believe she didn't manage to fit properly, so she tried out the back boot as well. I'm not sure whether she actually sat inside the main car.
Just couldn't get the lid shut.
Couldn't get the lid shut, yeah. I think at the moment she might actually be asking where the seatbelt is. But yes, it was rather. And they'll be coming along again this year, hopefully. But we haven't announced it yet, have we? Hopefully with it's the new X model with the Falcon doors. They're bringing it into the country towards the end of the year, hopefully just before BuzzConf. That'd be cool.
So, what next? We put on the festival. It took 18 months of organisation. And we got some great feedback. We really enjoyed it. We do this for the love of the communities, and it's not for profit. We don't make any money. In fact, we spend quite a lot of money and time, but we love it. It's a great event. But we wanted to make this year even bigger, so we had to think a little bit about how we're going to do that. The trouble with an event that only happens once a year is it's a really long iteration cycle. So if you want to try things out, it's very, very tricky to do. So we started to think about a concept called BuzzConf Nights, which are monthly events that try and capture that essence of the festival in a night. And we've held half a dozen of these, as well as a handful of other events. So we bring a collection of speakers on a variety of topics. Sometimes we have live music, sometimes we have DJs, quite often we have beer and food. And we put a really strong emphasis on the socialising, on meeting people, connecting people, and expanding our community, as well as learning about some really cool stuff. So it gives us a chance to meet new presenters and to talk on new topics, find out what people want to hear about. Coming to speak to people like you, you can tell us what you would like to see at an event like this, and we can try and make that happen. And we do the same sort of thing at BuzzConf nights. We're actually putting on an event tomorrow at the Savoy Tavern. We've got someone talking about virtual reality artwork. And this is really quite cool. A lot of people are exploring what to do with virtual reality. It's a new medium. If you think about the internet, when the internet started, people were trying to take magazines and put them on the internet and following the same format. The same with movies. People took what was in the theatre and very theatrical acting and put it on the movies. And these things didn't really work. You've got a new medium and a new format, so you should be able to do something exciting and new and innovative with that. And this lady's going to talk about how she's creating virtual reality art that doesn't conform to the physics that we're bound to in the real world. Like most virtual reality is, it's just a mimic of this. But what if perspective didn't behave like perspective? What if there weren't an up and a down? This sort of stuff's really quite exciting. She's going to be talking about that. We also have someone talking about social impact development, using really great modern technology to help third world countries. Because, as Annette was saying, things are getting so cheap and so portable. We can really use this to great effect now. And he's going to be talking about a few of his projects there. And we also get involved with some other organisations and some other events. There's NodeBots Day, which some of you might have heard about, coming up in 3 or 4 weeks, and we're going to be running a BuzzConf corner there. So the bulk of the event is building robots, but we're going to have a virtual reality cinema and, of course, our robot spiders, because I can't go anywhere without those robot spiders. They're wonderful. 3D printing machines and things like that. So we try to put on these extra events to hear what works, what people like, and make sure that our next festival is even bigger and better.
So now I'll tell you a bit about the next festival. So I've mentioned already in the bit about the ticketing that we've been working on the new ticket site. Registrations are open if you're interested. But what we really want to talk to you about tonight is about your passions. What are you working on? What new technologies have you found? Where are you breaking new designs, new ideas? We'd love to talk to you tonight, or go to our CFP page and submit your own talks. Come along tomorrow night and find out about what BuzzConf is about a bit more in person. But we'd really love to get your passions and your ideas. One of the things that we found from the BuzzConf nights is that the IoT space is where a lot of the excitement and passion is. We've had a lot of IoT talks and we can't get enough of them. There's so much in the IoT is such a broad spectrum. We thought when we first started BuzzConf that technology was so broad that nobody would understand what we're doing. But I think that IoT in many ways is even broader, because there's so much breadth to what you can connect that it doesn't even fit within the technological space anymore. We want to get that into BuzzConf and share that with other people. So come talk to us after this. BuzzConf.io/CFP if you want to submit. We've also got a number of ways to keep in touch. So BuzzConf.io, you'll find a sign up for the newsletter if you want. We're on Twitter and Facebook. And yeah, the newsletter is a good way of finding out when the BuzzConf nights are on as well.